So we've been running an organizational experiment on our forum, trying to build a good model for an academic framework. There are a lot of really top quality content producers out there, but there's no great way of integrating all of this material and directing research efforts in a way that corresponds to perceived needs, perceived challenges. So we, as the dissident right overall, need organization. And so we've been experimenting in this domain. And hopefully we come up with some things that could catch on. If people continue to participate in this, and round one went very well, I was very happy with the quality of presentations. So if people continue to participate, I would invest in having a website designed. And if anyone knows the details of web design, feel free to contact me if you like what I have to say here, and we can talk about hiring you to do this. Or I'll just go on Craigslist and find somebody locally. So we would build a website to do what we're now doing on the forum, but for now, with a small enough membership, the forum is pretty manageable. And there are some good thoughts up there at the moment, some good content. So anyway, here's my schematic, because I did win out in round one with the ranking. So that sets me with the obligation of designing the paradigm for the next round. Now, the person after me could undo some of the changes that I recommend, or they could just go with what I have and then make some modifications. So we'll have 3 domains that you would qualify for based on your overall ranking. And how that ranking is determined, I'll discuss momentarily. So if you come in with no rank already, you're a new member, you'll probably be entering through research. And that would mean that you are under an academic director who tells you to research a given topic and present what you find. If you rank up from there, you might get into a general colloquium where people discuss different topics and different academic concerns and then vote amongst themselves on the best presentation. And that determines then an academic director that would lead research teams. And above the colloquium is organization, which we're going to keep all of these groups to 6 members just because psychologically and according to schedules, it's relatively easy to manage that. So organization is the top level group. You have to have one of the top 6 rankings to get in, unless one of the people with those top 6 rankings decides to forfeit their right to enter, and in which case it would be open then to the 7th ranked person, and so on. General colloquium is the next ranked above that, and the general colloquium would kind of preside over in the future. This may not apply in the next round. We probably won't have enough people for this, but would preside over subject colloquia. And that would be, and colloquium, by the way, means basically talking together in Latin, and people use it in collegiate settings to refer to academic conferences. So when various research teams are found to share some common subject in common by organization, they'll be grouped into subject colloquia, and those will operate according to a similar kind of principle to the general colloquium. But that's probably down the line. And there can be as many subjects as seem fitting to organization. And researchers. Most people will enter as researchers. If there's no spots in organization or the general colloquium, then you'll be a researcher. And we'll have various research teams. The winners of the general colloquium will be the research directors. And those academic directors will continue their process of research until people stop being assigned to their team. And I'll discuss how you're assigned to a team, or until, there's no one left, in which case they would cease their role, clearly. And there can be any number of research teams. The research teams are what the subject colloquia are drawn from. So they're kind of, the same kind of structure. And organization determines the relationship of these research teams and the subjects, and obviously modifies the system as a whole if we find that something's not working. So this may seem dry to you, but it's very clear what you have to do when you enter. And if you participate consistently, you'll likely gain rank to be able to post your own type of thought and even to modify the system as a whole. It's meritocratic, although there is a voting mechanism, and this is what we need. So try to pay attention, like the video, spread this, and if I build a website, I'll pay good money to have a website built that makes this very clear to people, and we're going to do this. So to describe it as a flow chart, basically you enter this. These are the people in the entry pool, and some of them will go. The top 6 are eligible to go to organization, unless one of those 6 decides not to, in which case somebody else, the next highest, can. Some will go to the general colloquium, and the rest will go to research. Now, members of organization can fill a role in the general colloquium. So hypothetically, you could have the top 6 people take up the top 12 spots. I don't think psychologically that's how it's going to pan out. And also, organization and academy members, people in the colloquium, are eligible to participate in research as well. So if someone has a research team going, anybody can join it. Okay, organization produces through the voting system that we used in the last round, roughly, with a modification recommended by Ken, my co-host on the Perennial Podcast, whose name is admin on the forum, will be deciding the organizational director. The colloquium, as I discussed, produces an academic director, a research leader, each round. And these directors are decided on by the members of the research community. They get to decide who they want to do research under. Of course, there are only 5 slots in each research team. We might change these numbers in future rounds, but for now, this is what it is. And your overall rank gives you priority in preference. So you'll list your list of who you'd like to be with in rank order, and if you already have a higher rank, then that'll give you priority access. So the organizational director directs the interrelationships of the academic directors and the research teams, and yes, manages relations between academic subjects. At any level, you can always participate beneath where you are in the rank. You can't obviously participate above. Now, from colloquium to research to academic subject. This is the same process, but repetition helps understanding, and this is not immediately apparent, but hopefully when you understand the system, you'll see why it does have an advantage, and it's self-adaptive, and I think there's a lot of promise here. So General Colloquium offers topics for research, and it's open to organization level members as well. That's the general idea, that you're presenting something that's not just a self-contained commentary, but could also be developed into a longer term research project that you'll have a team available to work with you on. The academic director is selected from the General Colloquium, and they decide on a topic to do research on, and they organize the research team. Their winning colloquium post, what got them into their position as academic director, is then moved to a collective blog that we're going to start, and that blog will just have high quality posts on various topics, and it'll be good advertising for what we're doing with this academy model. The research team, matriculants, the people who join, acquire rank through a research team. Research teams are open to volunteers from organization and colloquium. Academic directors keep their research team unless a round occurs where no personnel volunteer or are sorted to participate. So once you start your research team, if people keep volunteering and ranking you in priority to join your team, then your research team survives. But if everyone ranks you last of the people in the research pool, and there aren't enough research candidates to be sorted into your team and no one else volunteers from other levels, then you're by yourself, and at that point you're no longer an academic director. You lose your post. So that's how we have some durability built into the system. One thing to consider is I do want to keep this enjoyable for people and have things that work be selected and continued, and things that don't work be dropped. So hopefully the general colloquium is like a base level thing that most people would like, where you post interesting things, get commentary on it, and then maybe have the potential of having a work team assigned, if you win, having a work team assigned to you where you can then do more in-depth research. Academic subject, and we probably, again, won't get to this immediately, but hopefully and eventually this will be the direction we move. When several research teams are found by an organizational director to belong to a common subject, the team leads form, that is the academic directors, form a new discipline-specific colloquium. And they'll probably discuss what each of them finds in their research teams. The winner of the subject colloquium organizes collation of subject posts into a journal. So each academic subject would be producing a journal that could be a blog, that could be some kind of e-media out there. And also audio-visual materials are possible. A research team could be formed not only to research, but to produce, say, documentaries. That's something that I would probably like to do. Now, how do you determine this general ranking? Each individual earns a percentage of the point total for each work group they participate in. So, for example, in organization, the organization group, John earns 25% of the points, and in colloquium, he earns 17. How these points are awarded will be described in the next slide, and that'll be derived from the model that Ken put forward. And this is connected to that model, but it's separate because this applies across domains, across the whole thing, and it determines your preference, your priority in seating in the various categories. Sum these percentages from the various groups that you choose to participate in and express them as a decimal. So John would stand at 0.42. If this is the first round, this is his score, period. Sum all of the total percent points that you got from your categories. And for each subsequent round, repeat the same procedure and then add half the previous round's score. And that gives incentive for continued participation. And that also means that if you stop participating, your score will be cut in half and it'll go down pretty rapidly. Higher scores mean higher ranking. This metric is used solely to determine priority and group preference. Auxiliary tasks set by the organizational director can also add to this score. So, for example, the director could award 0.25 points to everyone who adds their Myers-Briggs type to the profile. And I think that would be a good idea because it's healthy to understand the psychological types that you're dealing with and you know how to treat people. That's something from Ray Dalio. Because scores diminish so quickly, we may want to give everyone 1 or 2 sabbaticals per year that can be used to freeze their score while they take a round off. I think that's just reasonable. And we're going to do 6 people, but this is verbatim what Ken put forward in his post for this previous round. And there's more to the post than just this, but check out the post because there's some other good stuff. So each research team could be composed of, and we're going to do 6 people. They have 1 week for research, 1 week for production, and that could vary, but yeah, essentially we're going to have 2-week periods for rounds, and that's going to be formalized because you can't just let things go on indefinitely. During evaluation, everyone votes for someone else. You don't vote for yourself. At the end of 14 days, the votes decrease by half, plus 1 for institutional weighting. Okay, so this is how the votes, or how the points are awarded. Everyone gets 1 point for participation, and they vote for who they think is best. So look at the top here, the top little section there. If everyone votes for A, then A is going to get 7 points at the end of it. This is assuming 7 participants. And then A is not voting for himself, so he's going to give that point to somebody. He gives it to B. Okay, so that would mean that A would have half of all the votes. You can see that there are 14 total votes, and he gets 7 of them. That gives him a score of 0.5. And according to the ranking system, that would mean that he just earned 0.5 in his total ranking score. And the next round, whatever he participates in, whatever his score, he'll have that plus half of 0.5, which is the percentage that he got from the first round. The reason we're doing percentages like this is that they have intrinsic limits. Like if you participate in 4 research teams, it would be mathematically impossible to get more than 4 points. So that incentivizes participating in more than one group and also prevents people in the higher ranks from just accumulating more and more points. Because obviously people at the top, if we didn't use this percentage system, would have very high numbers. People at the bottom would have very low numbers. And so whenever a high-ranked person voted, you would increase your score a lot. And so it would kind of be like an exponential race up to the top. And then the people who got there would be very hard to catch. This limit-based system, percentage-based system, intrinsically kind of keeps people cycling through the system. And there is that institutional weighting where you get something just for participating. You're not wasting your time. Now, so yeah, that first part, A got 7. Now for the next round, you half the scores, and this is within a group this happens. So within colloquium, this is happening. The first round happens, people get their scores, you half those scores and then add 1 to them, because that's the beginning of the next round. And now voting in that round, that second round here, is going to be based on the score that you have. So A is worth 4.5 votes. And in the general ranking system, that means that he has a higher percentage of the total points. But in the specific selection process for determining a winner in the colloquium, that means his vote is worth 4.5 points. So when he votes for B, B is now going to have a much higher score than he otherwise would if it was purely democratic. So that's how the votes are weighted. You don't actually have to understand this. Only the person who calculates it, which I suppose will be me and Ken probably, I'll have him double check my work, will determine how all of the math works out. But it's really not too complicated. The thing to keep track of would be your general score to make sure that the person in organization's not cheating you somehow. So that is basically everything you would need to know about this process to get started. And go ahead and sign up at the forum, go into organization, and then there's a roll call for round 2. I think the post thread is titled results from round 1, roll call round 2. And that roll call is open until 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I think I already said on Monday. So at the end of the day on Monday, the roll call will be closed. We'll have how many people are participating, what they want to participate in. And yeah, so there are 6 spots available for organization, 6 spots available for colloquium, and then anything over that, any overflow, is going to be part of a research team. And so far, Ken is the research team leader, and I'm sure he'll pick a good topic. As far as how the research teams are organized, that's up to the discretion of the academic director that's leading it. So let me know what you think about this. Any comments, constructive criticism, whatever it is. I'll incorporate that into my personal thinking going forward, although I may not have the discretion to make changes as of next round. Who knows who will win out. So it's kind of a good game framework, and there's some good opportunities for capitalizing on incentives, on directing energies, directing research to good areas, collating results, and presenting final products that are produced by a team that have a lot of work going into them instead of just me. As far as this YouTube channel, like I would definitely post stuff from research teams on the YouTube channel. But anyway, yeah, let me know your thoughts, and thanks for listening.